In the last few days I have researched how likely I am to get hit by a lightning strike, win the lottery, or shuffle a deck of cards in the right order. I've studied one of my favorite books, Thinking Fast and Slow, and relearned basic statistics and probability. And the reason for all this madness? An unimportant question that had been on my mind for a while. I've been wondering about something. It's this simple thing that keeps popping into my head. It's not an important question like, what am I doing with my life, or what am I going to eat for dinner? But the question is still lingering, calling out my attention. So, I think it's time for an answer. See, my route to work has exactly 8 traffic lights, and that's 8 potential roadblocks. For a while I played a game with myself to see if I could make it to work with only green lights. I couldn't really do much to influence the outcome, but I started to wonder, how likely is a perfect run? How likely is it that I make it to work with no red lights? Assuming each traffic light is green 50% of the time in my direction, the total probability of 8 green traffic lights in a row comes out at 0.39%. That's 1 in 255 days, or roughly 1 day in a year of working. If I also want green lights all the way home again, that's 1 in 65,535 days, or once in 180 years of trying every single day. My interest in this is not so much that I can use this number for anything, but more that statistics like these are difficult for us to fully comprehend. They make sense on the surface, but in everyday life we don't fully see or understand the rules of this game. On an average day I should see 4 red traffic lights on my way to work. It doesn't take much to figure that out, but somehow red traffic lights can still bother us from time to time. Or what about the weather? I live in a country where some months have more rainy days than dry ones. And yet I can still be surprised when I've made outdoor plans on a rainy day. These examples are quite simple, but they point toward a trend. We aren't always very rational in our thoughts. And as it turns out, some of the things we do and think are much weirder than this. Thinking Fast and Slow overflows with profound scientific examples like mental effort. How mental effort makes your pupils dilate, and how that dilation makes a person appear more attractive. And that mental effort can effectively make people blind to something as obvious as a gorilla walking across a screen. What about the fact that self-control is a mental effort, and you have a limited resource of this? Priming. What about how priming can affect physical actions? Like walking slower after reading words related to old people. Yeah, no kidding. An experiment where people worked with words related to older people actually showed that they walked slower compared to other people when they have worked with these words. And the subjects of this study didn't even recognize that they'd been primed with these words. Yet they still acted on this priming phenomenon known as the ideomotor effect. Availability heuristic. How the availability heuristic can make us judge the likelihood of an event based on how available this event is in our memory. Simply, if we can recall something easily, we judge it to be more likely. For example, if you're planning an outdoor event in the fall, you may have a hard time believing it will rain if you're doing the planning during a hot summer day. Rain doesn't come easily to mind, so it isn't likely. That's how the availability heuristic works. I usually consider myself rational and with a logical brain. Sure, I have my flaws, but I'd say I trust my brain. Usually. But page after page, example after example, Kahneman wears down this belief. How can I possibly trust my own logic with the examples we just talked about? The goal of Kahneman's book and his life's work isn't to leave us in despair over our own dysfunctional brains. Of course not. His goal is that of science, to explain and understand. He also points out that most of the time our brains are doing a damn fine job. An amazing job, actually. But as the examples show, sometimes it also tricks us. Only by understanding our own brains can we start to fix some of these flaws. It won't be easy, maybe it will be impossible. The brain is super complex and we are just starting to understand some of it. Knowing a bit more about our brains may help us see and explain some of our errors. It's the first step needed. At least I now know how likely I am to get green traffic lights all the way to work, and that my brain isn't always as rational as I think it is. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to know more about how the brain works, check out Thinking Fast and Slow. It's a dense and amazing read. That's it. See you in the next one.